Good morning. You're up right away. You can come up. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, nice. Oh, I like it. Let's do it again. Good morning. This is going to be a fun crowd. I like it. Please welcome Sister Sharon Polno, the General Superior of the Congregation of Sisters of St. Agnes, to the podium for our welcome and opening reflection.
Okay. That's okay. Oh, what a blessing it is for us to gather with you, the marvelous women of Fond du Lac area, because I know some are from Sheboygan and Manitowoc. On this Mother Agnes feast day, Mother Agnes was one of our 3 founders of our congregation. It is said that Mother Agnes was a magnanimous, courageous woman, a woman with a generous spirit, a great soul, and a big heart. Look around this room. We have women like her in this room, all of you. Thank you for blessing us with your presence this morning. Let us take a moment to quiet our minds and our hearts. Please close your eyes. Breathe out any anxiety or stress. Breathe in the peace that is gift. Now go into your heart space. Put your hand on your heart. Be tender with your heart that has traveled many years until this moment and is still beating. The Creator who loved you into life is still with you today, within you and all around you, and in all those who share this moment with you. Now, as you open your eyes, let us each put our hand out and send our love, the love of all we as women, out to this world of ours. Send it out to those who've lost their jobs, to the homeless, the immigrants, the grieving, the starving. Send out your love to Gaza and Israel, Ukraine, Canada and Mexico, to Russia, and to the United States of America and our sisters and people of Nicaragua. So let us pray. Sacred mystery, enlighten us to realize anew that we are surrounded by an incomprehensible love all the days of our lives. May we realize that our journey through life is a sacred journey, and that we are not alone, that the grace-filled presence of each of us here strengthens us to continue the way forward into an unknown future. God of love, at times when we are anxious, confused, overwhelmed, or feeling like, what does it matter? Enlighten us to know that light will always follow darkness. May we realize, like Mother Agnes, that our lives have purpose, unique to each of us. And may we continue to live our lives with open hearts and open hands. May we, like Mother Agnes, be magnanimous, courageous women, believing, hoping, and open to the transformation of ourselves and our world as we each walk our sacred journey. Amen.
Thank you, Sister Sharon. My name is Dusty Krickow. I serve as the Director of Mission Advancement for the Sisters of St. Agnes. Today, I will also serve as your MC. We are thrilled to welcome so many of you to Risk a Sacred Journey. And I would like to take a moment to recognize CSA as the organization making today's event possible. The congregation has a long-standing relationship with the community, though as habits change over the years, it isn't quite as easy to recognize a sister in the grocery store. So, if you are a Sister of St. Agnes, please stand if you are able. Thank you. We appreciate the continued work of the sisters in our community and the opportunity that the sisters have provided for us to come together today. The sisters have inspired many people from all walks of life to join them in an intentional relationship with the congregation. This committed group of individuals is referred to as this group is referred to as the associate group. If you are an associate of the congregation, please stand. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today, associates. And finally, I would like to recognize each of you who doesn't have a specific affiliation with the congregation for joining us today. As Sister Sharon said, thank you for blessing us with your presence. I hope you leave this room today feeling challenged to understand yourself in new ways and having explored your own sacred journey with a new friend. We always hope that this event creates new connections. With that in mind, later this morning, you'll be asked to share with a partner at your table. To help break the ice, please take a few moments to, obviously we were all here hearing the loudness already this morning, so you all greeted one another already, but please take a few moments to greet at your table and determine how you're going to divvy up that partnership so that when we get to that part of the gathering, you know who you're going to be talking to. So I will ding the singing bowl when it's time to come back together. Come on back. What? Yeah, oh yeah. So next year we've determined I need a cowbell. That's what we need. Okay, so what we've learned is that you all have a lot to say to one another, so that's good. Later, when this microphone is available at the end of the show, I'll be expecting you to share with the rest of the room, too. So hopefully you've all partnered up, figured things out. I saw some crafty work over here where there were odd-numbered tables joining up with even-numbered tables to get even partnerships, so good problem-solving, ladies. So today, as Sister Sharon mentioned, we celebrate Mother Agnes Day, recognizing the first General Superior of the Sisters of St. Agnes. On this same day, March 6th, 120 years ago, Mother Agnes took her last breath. 20 years ago, the first of these annual breakfasts was begun, commemorating the 100th anniversary of her death. During that event, Sister Judith Schmidt, ever the performer, role-played Mother Agnes in full historic habit and shared stories of her courageous leadership. Our event's going to be a little different. But we will still have Mother Agnes's spirit as the core of this morning's breakfast. Like all of us, Mother Agnes balanced her many responsibilities with connecting with her spiritual center. Just like you, her to-do list was long as she led CSA's work to open Fond du Lac's first hospital, open schools, farm the land, and provide spiritual guidance to the community. Her work required constant risk. At age 17, some of you in this room are 17, at age 17, she was named to her leadership role for the congregation on the same day that there was a very real possibility the congregation would cease to exist entirely. She navigated political minefields and managed funds and food to ensure that the many people who counted on her were cared for. Mother Agnes constantly risked a sacred journey. A quote from the piece we're exploring today seems to perfectly capture a prayer request that Mother Agnes could have made to her sisters, asking to walk, quote, in courage and integrity, attempting to discern the voice of God amid the cacophony of doubt and fear, end quote. Today, we will reflect on these words and more. You will have time later in the program to consider how you're risking your own sacred journey. To help us begin that exploration, we will hear from Sister Doris Klein. Sister Doris is a member of the Congregation of Sisters of St. Agnes. She lives in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and ministers as a spiritual director, artist, and graphic designer. Her watercolor images reflect on spirituality from an inclusive perspective and the feminine experience of God. In more recent years, she has been exploring digital photography and videography. All of her work includes a reflective description inviting the viewer to engage in their own spiritual journey. Today, she will invite us to reflect on the artwork on the back of your program. Please help me welcome Sister Doris to the podium.
Don't you like Mother Agnes's new duds? What a delight to be here with you. And honestly, all the words and images in the world can't reflect the beauty and the power of the feminine energy in this room. And for that, I thank you. We thank us. As Dusty said, I'm an artist. Relax. There are no hidden art supplies under your table. Rather, the creative presence of divine spirit is already within you. And the blessed, strong, wise, creative woman that each of you is. I was gifted at a time of transition in my life by some amazing women who were my mentors and my midwives on my spiritual journey. They challenged me to come home to my authentic self and to plumb the creative depths of my sacred journey. They mirrored to me a divine presence that lured me into a mystical knowing of God that went beyond a theology book. I became keenly aware that much of religious art, music, and poetry that we were exposed to came from the male perspective and frequently carried with it attitudes that link spirituality to patriarchy, to dualism, to judgment, and to shame. These insights moved me to look more deeply at the mystics, the poets, the artists, and the authors who looked at the divine from a feminine perspective and began painting images that mirrored some of the feminine metaphors which were seldom highlighted in organized religion. Now, once my work was in print, I began sharing it with people, and spirituality from a woman's perspective. Believe me, opportunities were far and few in those days. It was about 25 years ago. And one day I was surprised when I received a call from a Methodist minister. Well, it was a job. I will always be grateful for that invitation. I got to this little church. There were about 30 or 40 people gathered there, mostly men in clerical garb, a few women. And the superintendent of that area got in front, quieted the group, and was ready to make announcements. You know, the food is here, the bathrooms are there, blah, blah, blah. Then he paused. And everybody was looking at him. And he looked right into their eyes and he said, "Everyone in this room is guilty." He hit the podium. "Guilty, I tell you, of the sin of idolatry. You are as guilty of the sin of idolatry as the people who built the golden calf, because you have built a box, and you have said, God must fit in this box. God must look like this. Now get out your hymnals. And I'm thinking, holy. And they had big book of books. Big book. And I just kept slipping down into the pew thinking, oh, talk a long time, Pastor. So he said, now turn your books to page 59, hymn 59. And the song was, there is no name big enough for God. And do you sing this with your congregations? I thought not. Now turn to hymn number 237. And the opening verse was, as a mother hen holds her chicks close to her breast. Imagine a hen with breast in it. Holds them close to her breast, so I, your God, hold you close to my breast. And do you sing this with your congregations? I thought not. Now turn to hymn number 542. And they went way to the back of the hymnal, and the song was, as a mother comforts her child, so I, your God, your mother, will comfort you. And do you sing this with your congregations? I thought not. What do you sing? Week after week, week after week. Faith of our fathers, faith of our fathers, faith of our fathers. And now I'd like to introduce to you Sister Doris Klein. That story has remained with me for 25 years because we all get trapped in that. And we're all called on our sacred journey to name that experience, to explore that experience of the divine mystery that walks with us. They were a delightful group of people, and they opened my eyes to the desires of many who wanted to deepen their spiritual journey. And as I worked with various other groups in parishes, retreat centers, women's study groups, it became so clear that there was a hunger to know more about the richness of feminine spirituality, to realize that we as women are also made in the image and likeness of God. What a novel idea. In our feminine selves, we are called to mirror an unconditionally loving God whose wisdom, strength, intuition, and creativity are mirrored in each one of us. We are a facet of God that is unique to who we are, and our call is to live with integrity, mirroring that goodness of God. When asked to do this reflection today, I was drawn to a poem by Mary Oliver called The Journey. It mirrors the sacred journey that we are each called to walk, a journey within ourselves, with our God, and with our world. The poem is a call to come home to the true self we were each uniquely created to be, to a place of deep authenticity within us, where the heart of God and our heart beat as one. Mary Oliver writes, one day you finally knew what you had to do and began. Don't you love it? One day you finally knew what you had to do and began, though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice. Though the whole house began to tremble and you felt the old tug at your ankles. Mend my life, each voice cried. But you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do. Though the wind pried with its stiff fingers at your very foundations, though their melancholy was terrible, It was already late enough and a wild night, and the road full of fallen branches and stones. But little by little, as you left their voices behind, the stars began to shine through the sheets of clouds, and there was a new voice, which you slowly recognized as your own, that kept you company as you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could save. One day you finally knew what you had to do and you began. That is our spiritual journey. That's our life journey. That's coming home to the truth of what we really know. And we know it's not always an easy journey. We know there are challenges on this sacred journey. And we know those voices, I love that line, though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice. Well, they're not always around you out here, they're often right in here. You can't do that. You're not good enough. How could you possibly? Shh. Take care of this, take care of this. You have obligations here. So we know about those voices shouting their bad advice. And we know all the questions risking the sacred journey can raise. And I love her metaphor, that old tug at your ankles. What keeps you from being truly who you were created to be? That old tug at your ankles. But you didn't stop, she writes. You didn't stop. You knew what you had to do. This isn't a one-time event. This happens over and over in our life. When Rhea and company, Dusty, asked me to do this, I didn't want to do it, but I knew what I had to do. We are constantly risking the sacred journey. And I love when she wrote, but little by little, the voices left you behind. Little by little. We get so impatient on journeys. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. It should be done. We don't go on a journey and just get there. There are plenty of obstacles on the path. And her conclusion is so beautiful, that when the stars began to burn through the sheets of clouds, there was a new voice which you slowly recognized as your own, your truth, your passion, the goodness of who you are and what you bring to our world, so that you can reconnect and walk with others in truth, in strength, and in integrity. I want to link Mary Oliver's journey to the painting Dusty referred to on the back of your program. I did that painting 25 years ago. And when I published it in the book and wrote the description of it, you know, it had been on my shelf for a while, so in getting ready to do this, I pulled it up and I thought, holy cow, that's an interesting take on this. And yet it was a universal take, because we always come into that space of our journey learning something new again and again and again. Now, first of all, I am not a traditional watercolorist. Of course, many people would say I'm not a traditional many things. Not a traditional Mother Agnes. But I want to tell you a little bit about how I paint. I usually take a nice big sheet of watercolor paper and make it really wet, and then just take some pigment thick on my brush or right out of the tube and put it into a puddle of water, and it runs. And I like to stand there and wait to let the watercolor tell me what's inside. So I didn't sit down and say, oh, I have a wonderful idea. I'm going to paint a picture about risking the sacred journey. I risked the sacred journey and looked at the watercolor, and the first splash is that big blue area that just spread all over. It just went all over. And then I noticed where I had put some paint heavier, there was a dark wall, a dark stripe that's like right in front of the figure that's there. And I thought, isn't that interesting? And as the paint began to dry, I began to see the silhouette of the figure that was standing there. So I got some paint and darkened that up, and I thought, what does that mean? Who is that? What's she looking at? Where's she going? Now, of course, painters, we're always painting ourselves anyway, until we realize it's the universal painting of everyone, standing in that place between now and not yet, standing in that place before an unknown future. And then, as I darkened that silhouette, I painted the colors on the cloak that she's wearing. Because I thought, no, there's something else. It's not just standing there in that silhouette. It's more like what supports us, what accompanies us on that journey. So, back to my notes. Mostly I wanted to paint a sense of the presence of God. Not a picture of God. We have way too many of those. Way too many pictures of God. A sense of the presence of God. So if you look at the far right side, I took some sandpaper and I started sandpapering the painting so that the light of the paper would show through. And then I took a knife and I started carving some very clear, sharp lines. Spatters of light, representing that mystical, mysterious presence of the divine that walks with us in those unknown times and spaces as we face that unknown future. A presence that companions us in ways that we can't ask or imagine, beyond our words and beyond our images. It's part of why you're here today, because there's that sense of divine energy that we know in community, that we know in the eyes and hearts of those we sit with. As that woman stands there, as you stand there on your journey, your sacred journey, you're faced with many things. You're faced with a sense of deep intuitive knowing. That Mary Oliver piece, you knew what you wanted to do when you began. Sometimes you stand there in that presence of the divine who sees you in your place of confusion, fear, and brokenness. You stand there in that presence of the divine who loves you exactly as you are. Not because of perfection, not because of power, not because of self-sufficiency or control, simply because you're there. But as Mary Oliver writes, those voices are there too. The lies and the illusions, like the wind that tugs at the very foundations. Voices like, I won't have what I need. I can't get through this. I'm getting old. Shh. I don't deserve. I'm less than, not as good as. So many fears that block out the truth that we are wonderfully made. Psalm 34, I formed you and I know you. I knit you together in your mother's womb. How wonderfully I made you. A great translation I used once was, how awesome you are. How awesome God makes us. So standing in that precipice between that dark unknowing of what's ahead of us, we also have that beautiful cloak that we wear. the colors of truth, goodness, self-esteem, courage, and communities of support. Our companions on the journey. That's why this breakfast is so important. To be with those companions who remind us we can walk this journey, we can risk this journey, because we have been given the grace of who we are, the wisdom of Sophia within us. And when we forget that, we look around and we witness the wisdom of Sophia in those around us. Think of the mentors and the midwives that have helped you walk your sacred journey, who mirror to you the divine presence of unconditional love. Men and women who supported you, who stood beside you in times of grief and loss. I always am taken by the line from the gospel, who do you say that I am? Who do you say that I am? As we walk our sacred journey, it's a wonderful question to sit with. Who do you, Mary, Susie, Patty, Billy, whoever, who do you say that I, God, am? Who am I? Am I Michelangelo's white-bearded grandpa in the sky? Who do you say that I am? And as we grow and as we walk, we go deeper and deeper, letting some of those images behind and being with mystery, being with a sense of presence. And I think another way to look at that quote is, and who do you, divine presence, say that I am? Who do you say that I am sitting here in this room? I believe our God who companions us on this journey is always tender, strong, unconditionally loving, and looks into our souls and says, isn't she beautiful? Isn't she beautiful? I did a drawing once of a mother holding an infant right after birth. And it would remind me of times, I'm sure you've experienced them, when a newborn or a relatively newborn baby was brought into the room and they were red and wrinkly and a little scaly and stinky. And what did everybody say? Oh. Isn't she beautiful? Can we believe that our divine beloved looks at us even when we're wrinkly, red, and scaly and says, isn't she beautiful? That's what allows us to risk the sacred journey. And we must take time to touch into that deep knowing of God. We do it in our own quiet times. We do it with one another. We do it in the resources that are listed in your program. We do it with trusted companions so that we can be seen by God, who has placed in us rich, intuitive wisdom and a fiercely compassionate heart and a love and a goodness that can change the world. Of course, we have doubts and fears, clarity, sometimes inspiration, sometimes clear knowing, and sometimes no knowing. And still, we walk in that presence of mystery. Each of us stands at the gate of tomorrow, facing the future. At times, we've walked in wonder and awe. At other times, we've moved along in a flood of fear. Looking back, we may recognize that amid the joys and struggles of this journey, we have been companioned by a graceful presence that has held us together and led us on. This is simply not a journey through strings of days and years. Rather, it is a sacred journey, one that is held and surrounded by mystery. Although we long for someone to translate the risks of this journey into logical explanations, we often find ourselves in the foreign land of faith. We stand on the edge of our hopes and dreams and ask in trust to be led and supported by a love and energy that is much larger than we can imagine. We ask to walk here in courage and integrity as we attempt to discern the voice of God amid the cacophony of our doubts and fears. Yes, women, we together, we individually, we always with our God, can risk walking the sacred journey. Thank you.
Thank you for saying yes, Sister Doris. I hope you all found parts of yourself reflected in what we just heard. And often the speed of our everyday life can hinder our ability to internalize things like this, these new ideas and perspectives that we've encountered. Today, we're going to give you a chance to pause and absorb what this experience means for you, and then share with that partner at your table. So if you open your booklet to the middle page, nicely, easily, right where the staples are, Sister Doris has given us a question to reflect on. What have been the gifts and challenges of your sacred journey? So here comes the challenging part for anyone who isn't a sister of St. Agnes. We're going to sit in silence for 2 minutes. So for the next 2 minutes, we will sit in quiet contemplation of that question. For those of us who don't sit in contemplation, often 2 minutes can feel like a very uncomfortably long time. When that feeling comes upon you today, remember that you came here to put yourself outside of your comfort zone, to risk a sacred journey, and it's working. So I'll bring us back together with a ding, which you'll be able to hear because it's quiet in here, when the time has passed. So our 2 minutes begins now. You made it through. I can tell I've been working with them for long enough that didn't bother me, and that's very rare. So our next process will require some introduction. To explain the partner discussion process to you, I'm going to welcome a familiar face to the stage who was our speaker last year. Sister Rhea Emmer will be coming up to explain to you the concept of spiritual mirroring.
Thank you, Dusty. Good morning. As we ask you to share your spiritual journey, we invite you to practice deep listening. And deep listening, as you know, is listening with an open mind and an open heart. So there are no judgments, nor, which we do very well as women, want to give advice. We don't want to do that. Rather, we just want to be present to one another and listen. But after you have listened, we're going to invite you to practice, which might be a new skill called spiritual mirroring. And in your book on page 4, we have examples of 3 different ways that you can spiritually mirror to your partner. And the first one, which is probably the easiest, is to hear their emotion. So an example might be, I hear your joy, I hear your relief, I hear your anger, I hear your anxiety. You stop with the emotion. It's not, I hear your joy and I know exactly how you feel because I had the same experience. Stop with the emotion. The second is to reflect back an image. Some of us are visual listeners, that as we listen to one another, an image surfaces within us. And so offering the image is a way of mirroring to our partner the experience. So an example might be, as I listened to your deep grief and sorrow at the loss of your loved one. An image of a waterfall came to me, and the waterfalls were your tears, and they were bringing comfort to your hurting heart, an image. And then another way is to say, I wonder, and as it says in the booklet, it's not asking for more information, but rather it's simply letting your partner know that she can be seen and heard and trusted in her vulnerability. As women, sometimes we feel as though we have to be so strong and hold it all together, when the best thing we can do is absolutely fall apart and let someone hold us in that vulnerable space. That's a great gift that we can give one another. So 3 different ways that you will practice partnering, mirroring back to your partner. So you will have a good 15 minutes with your partner. So that gives each of you about 7.5 minutes to share, to listen, and then to practice mirroring. And then you will exchange roles. Dusty will bring this to a close at the end of that 15 minutes. So enjoy sharing your sacred journey. Thank you.
Thank you all for your energetic participation in this experience. I saw a lot of emotion in the room, and I really want to just take a moment to thank you for being authentic with people that many of you are meeting for the first time, or you have sort of a surface relationship with. This was a very deep conversation, so thank you for your vulnerability. In a moment, I'm going to be opening the floor for your comments on what this was like for you. What it was like for you to share your reflection on this morning's presentation with your partner. How did participation in spiritual mirroring feel for you? We don't want to necessarily share one another's content, so what we're looking for is, what was this experience like? Is it something that you feel like you'd want to do again? How did it sit in your heart to be sharing so deeply with someone, and to have someone mirror back for you what they heard from you? So I'm going to give you a minute in silence to think about those questions, and then I'll invite you up to the microphone if you want to speak. There's absolutely no obligation to speak, but if you feel called to come and talk, there's a microphone up front. We're asking folks to come to the microphone just so that we can all see one another a little easier. In about 1 minute, I'll ding the bell again. I'll now invite anyone who is interested, to bring your insights to the microphone. We have about just under 10 minutes to share with one another. Remember, please, to share only how the experience was for you and not the content of your conversations.
My name is Sue Kaiser, and I feel that God's thread through our lives brought me personally to this event. It brought me to this table, which is in the way, by the way, but in the front where nobody ever wants to sit. It brought me to talk with Reverend Mary. She was my partner. And then it was able to hear her reflection, or her listen to me feedback about me. And it brought tears to my eyes because I don't see myself that way. So the being able to share with somebody who doesn't even know me, and she brought up so many points, about who I am or who I want to be or whatever, not only shows me her astuteness as a reverend, but also just as a human being, the connection that was there. So great exercise.
My name is Jane. Am I on?
You're on. You're just a little tall.
My name is Jane Clare, and this is the second time I've come to this gathering, and I am very grateful every year when I can do it. I was just thinking about any other time when we get together, women get together around a table. It's usually wonderful and spirited, but this is over the top. Great, because how many times, I'm sitting next to this dear woman and we're sharing things that are just so deep in our heart and so important, and things that we're very sad about, and I never met her before, and here we are, and we know that we have that kind of connection. So God bless the Sisters of St. Agnes for doing this. Thank you.
Longer walk. Yeah, right? Hello? Okay. What I enjoy, Sophie. Oh, sorry, my name is Lauren Nikelski. What I enjoy so much about places and spaces like this is that this isn't an agenda. There is one, but it's a space and it's a place. Sometimes when we are vulnerable, we're so worried about what we are then expected to do. You make a mistake at work. Well, this is a learning moment. It's not, I'm vulnerable, I'd like to just be here. And this is, because I can be both. I can learn from this, but I also need to acknowledge the moments that I need to get out. And I just think that, why can't it always be both? Duality is in everything. And more than that, right? But what I just really like is that this is a place where we're not giving advice. It's a space. And there needs to be more of that, not just for women, we all know that, but for all. Okay, Sophie, you're up.
Amen.
Hi everyone, I'm Sophie Norton, and I thought this is my first time attending this, and I thought it was really, really beautiful. As a young woman, a senior in high school, I thought it was really cool to be in a room full of other very beautiful and powerful women, and kind of hear your guys' experience and be able to reflect on the things that I've done in my life in ways that as I go into this next chapter of my life, that is college, to kind of reflect in my spiritual life and to prepare myself and to know what I need to do. So I just thought this was beautiful, and I thought Doris's announcement and talk that she gave was a really great way to reflect on my spiritual life. So I just thank you guys for everything.
I'm Sister Mary Lou, one of the Sisters of St. Agnes. We in the congregation use many opportunities to share among ourselves. We have circles and religious, with our themes and all. And we have, for the last many years, used the phrase to connect at the level of the sacred. I would like to say it is by no means the province of the Sisters of St. Agnes, because it's the province of anyone in this room. You are beautiful. Thank you.
Yes. Do you need the mic back? Do you need? You can go ahead. Yeah. So.
Well, I'm not sure how easy it was for you to not say, oh, I know how you're feeling. And so thank you for that last little minute. But Sister Doris was one of those incredible mentors to me and to many along the journey to listen, to support, and in the connection with my partner, listening, and then just even marveling at how we are given the tools and the support along the way if we can connect and if we can recognize and allow. And lots of times it's in retrospect that we go, wow, dang, thank you. Whew, thank you so much. So I so appreciate the support and the care and the love of the women and the supporters in my life. So it was great. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Kathleen Niskey, and my partner was Holly. And I do want to thank you for this breakfast. Every time I come, it's just so amazing. It's just such an amazing event and an opportunity to look inward and to, grow. So one of the things that I did not expect is this sort of automatic imaging happening. So what happened was one piece of what I was sharing was about fear. And we all are used to these images of fear being like a boulder and a wall. But the image that was given back to me was a pine tree. And I had an automatic image of a forest then, because I've never thought of fear, like facing fear, as a forest, because obviously you just walk through the trees. It's not that difficult. But if you're looking at a wall, it's like you're so afraid because you have no concept that you can get through that fear. But if you look at it as a forest, oh, well, maybe the path isn't straight, but at least there's a path. There's a way through. So that's what I wanted to share because it was very powerful. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Allison, and I am 17. I am currently a student at St. Mary Springs, and Sophie, that just went before us, one of my best friends. And I just want to thank all of these women that are here because this felt like such an empowering experience. I've never really gone to these kind of events throughout high school, but my awesome theology teacher invited me to this, and I think it was just such a great experience to connect with these women that aren't really my age, because I know I'm a little younger, but just to hear it from so many perspectives was great. I love this experience. Thank you, guys.
We love you.
Many in this room called me Reverend Mary. I'm Mary Counsel Austin, and as I sat at table, I found myself aware of the burden named retirement. And part of that is carrying the power of not only the ones who walked the birth canal with me and who called out of me what at times I felt I was not capable of, who were the hands and feet and voices of God. I use the word burden because I find myself wanting to intentionally be a birther as they were in my life. And sitting here this morning and in our listening session, I'm okay knowing that there's nothing burdensome about it. It's not up to me alone to be the finisher, but it's the hands and the hearts and the hopes around me and those who discover us as we walk the journey together. So I'm grateful this morning. I'm grateful to be one of those old timers. Yeah, I really am so grateful. And it just means that there's a well getting deep enough that from that well much can be shared. God bless us all. Thank you, sister.
I just want to say thank you all for risking full participation in your journey today. You'll find numerous resources for continuing these conversations and this exploration in the booklet in front of you. There are handouts on the resource table as well. We do have monthly contemplative prayer at the Mother House. We also have a Sisters and Seekers group that has conversations like this once a month in a very safe and vulnerable space. So the brochures for that, as well as the dates for those meetings, is also on the resource table on your way out. If you have enjoyed the conversation this morning and don't want it to stop, remember that the room we've reserved the room until 10 a.m. this morning. So you're welcome to stay and continue chatting if you want to continue the conversation or feel like you need a little more time to wrap up that conversation you were having, that deep moment that you were having. Though obviously we also recognize that some of you have to depart immediately. While all of us will leave the room with energy and a deeper understanding of ourselves, 19 lucky people will also leave with a plant. So if I call your name, you win a door prize, which anybody who's here was entered in. Okay, so congratulations on all of those. So that is the conclusion of my giveaway part of the thing. We're going to take it back a little bit more sacred now and invite Sister Doris back up to give our closing reflection. When she's done, the event is concluded.
Sometimes prayers come out in very different ways. The prayer today is simply a prayer of gratitude. We've heard it in the voices of the women around our table. We've heard it in the voices who came to the microphone before. And so we simply sit together in the prayer of gratitude. I would like to close with another piece of poetry by Mary Oliver. This is part of her poem called The Summer Day. And in it she writes, "I don't know exactly what a prayer is, but I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I've been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?" God speaks to your heart right now saying, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? Amen.